Greetings, everyone. It is the 17th of December, 2023. We are so happy to have all of you here today. We welcome you as we start our next session with Clearwater Baha'is. For those of you who don't know who we are, you can access and learn more at clearwaterbaha'is.org. And we have, of course, our Facebook page and YouTube that we're streaming this on. We thank all of you who are here with us on Zoom, and especially Eileen Maddock. We want to thank Eileen Maddock, our presenter this week, who will be speaking on Angels, Stars, and Heralds, a Baha'i perspective on Christmas. So as all of you know, it is the holiday season. Christmas is coming close to next week, actually. And we want to talk about this topic, angels, stars, and forerunners, because we have one question. Have you ever wondered if there really was a star foretelling the birth of Jesus Christ? Were you wondering if the Magi, these three wise men, actually did visit the infant Jesus? Or are the gospel birth stories, is it also possible that they're a part of a larger fabric? We plan on trying to answer these questions to determine what we can this session and start you on a journey of your own self-discovery. With that said, a quick introduction for Eileen Maddock, as she is a return speaker, and we welcome you to please check out the videos here on our YouTube and Facebook pages to understand more that she's already spoken about, and also just to find out more about her books. You can go on YouTube and Facebook, we said, but you can also go to Amazon.com and purchase a few books. Some of her books include what she's working on now, her trilogy. It includes her first book, 1844, Convergence in Prophecy for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and the Baha'i Faith, which was published in 2018. Her current project is finishing a trilogy of The Coming of the Glory, how the Hebrew scriptures reveal the plan of God that presents a Baha'i perspective of the Hebrew Bible and its prophecies and its importance for us today. So again, I mentioned The Coming of the Glory and her first book, 1844, Convergence in Prophecy. Those two books with Eileen Maddock's name, you can use that on Amazon and you can find her books and purchase them. You are more than welcome to let us know in the comments if you've read these books, and let all the other viewers here know what you think of those books. With that being said, Eileen, welcome. We're ready to start. Thank you.
Oh my. Thank you very much, John, for a lovely introduction and for talking about my books, which today I humbly won't, so I'm glad you did. And thank you, Jeremiah, for inviting me to come back to Clearwater Baha'is. I love being here. Okay, let's click on share screen. Let's click on the PowerPoint, share sound, and then we go to slideshow, and then we go to from the beginning. And we will officially start. 'Tis the season to be jolly. We've been surrounded by the signs of Christmas celebration since October. How did it get this way? The Gospels give no information as to the actual date of Jesus' birth, so I did some investigations into the historical how and why of Christmas. We'll look at its pagan origins and then at the angels, stars, and heralds from a Baha'i perspective. And I found a lot of information in the Baha'i writings about this and a lot of surprises. Now, starting with my own memories of Christmas, growing up in rural Maine, Christmas was the grandest day of the year, and we prepared for it all year. We saved our money, our allowances, and it was an exciting day when we went Christmas shopping. And then we wrapped our presents in secret. We decorated the Christmas tree exactly so. Oh, and then on Christmas Day, we all sat down and we opened our presents one at a time so that everybody could see what everybody got, to whom, from whom, and then the turkey dinner, of course. Christmas was a magical day for me in my childhood. And then it all changed. As a young mother of 2 children and holding down full-time jobs, the stress, the obligations, very little money, and the expectations that were on me. And with all shopping done in stores, this was decidedly before online shopping, all of this took the place of the joy of Christmas for me. Starting midlife, I was out of the country for many years and returned in 2011. The culture shock in my own country was immense, far more so than in Israel. Extreme materialism had increased exponentially during the holiday season. The must-haves, cyber sales, emails flooding my inbox, and scams abounding. So hard copy solicitations flooding my mailbox. The perfect gift to give someone. Oh, a lot of suggestions about that. The X number of shopping days left to Christmas. And you know, I just feel like prey, P-R-E-Y, during all of this. Then the credit card scheme. Credit card offers are endless. There's a card for every perceived need. The ads show people happily shopping with their cards. But I read very recently that the American credit card debt has now passed over $1 trillion. There is a cognitive dissonance between Christmas as joy and the ever-present stress and commercialization. There's a romanticized version of Christmas and expectations of happy and joyous holidays. And there's also the stark reality for many people when the joys of the season do not match the realities of their lives. The American Psychological Association this year published a really neat chart about the causes of stress during the holiday season. And 89%, which is 9 of 10 U.S. adults, are experiencing stress during the holiday season. 58% on overspending or not having enough money. 40% finding the right gifts, shopping distress. 38% loneliness, missing family or loved ones, or those who have passed away recently. 30% feeling pressure to make the holidays special. 25% substance abuse issues. 22% family conflicts. 20% feeling left out or excluded. 19% travel. Now, how did all this come about? I went back as far as 2,600 years to find the answers. The origins of Christmas do go back to the pagan times, and I'll explain the how and the why of that. In Rome, Saturn was the Roman god of wealth, agriculture, liberation, and time. He had a prominent temple near the Roman Forum that was consecrated about 500 BC. Only 8 columns remain standing today of that temple, but here is an artist's rendition of how the temple probably looked. Saturn was a popular god and received many sacrifices of animals, wine, and food. For hundreds of years, a yearly festival called Saturnalia was devoted to Saturn and became the most popular holiday on the Roman calendar. It started off as one day and morphed into 7 days a week. It originated from archaic agricultural rituals and winter festivals on or near the winter solstice that were common throughout the pagan world. And any anthropologist will tell you that throughout the Northern Hemisphere, winter solstice days were part of practically every culture. First, to try to bring back the sun. Second, to try to have fun during the shortest day of the year. By the 1st century BC, Saturnalia, lasting 7 days, was starting on December 17th. There was gift giving and sacrifices to Saturn. There were also banquets, drinking games, and gladiatorial contests. Masters and slaves reversed roles, the masters waiting on the slaves. It was all in fun. And Rome being a strictly hierarchical society, it probably released tensions from the usual strict rules of this social hierarchy when the masters and the slaves switched roles. Jollity and merrymaking, and with the wine flowing and the norms of society suspended for a week, debauchery undoubtedly ensued. These celebrations were probably drunken and rowdy. After all, Saturn was a god of liberation. And if Saturnalia wasn't enough, the 2-day festival for the god Bacchus, the Bacchanalia, immediately followed on December 24 and 25th. As a point of interest, on the Julian calendar, which the Romans used at the time, the winter solstice did fall on December 25th. Bacchus was the Roman god of agriculture, wine, and fertility, and it doesn't take much imagination to figure out how this festival was celebrated. An angel, a star, and a herald. Okay, we've set the scene of what Roman society celebrations were like at the time of Jesus. Let's move on to the birth of Jesus and how the early Christians converted these festivals into the celebration of the birth of Jesus, retaining the greenery decorations and gift giving. According to the Gospel of Luke, in the days of Herod, there was a righteous priest named Zachariah and his wife Elizabeth, who was barren. They had prayed ardently for a child. When Zacharias was burning incense in the temple, an angel of the Lord appeared, making him afraid. But the angel said, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard." "How, Zechariah?" asked the angel. "How can I be sure of this? I am an old man and my wife is well along in years." The angel answered, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news." John, also called Yahya, was subsequently born to Zachariah and Elizabeth, and he grew up to become John the Baptist, the herald of Jesus. When Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored, the Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God." Now, is this accurate history, or is this just stories made up? Without getting into the subject of angels or angelology as such, I do give credence to the traditional hierarchy of angels. The prophet Isaiah encountered the seraphim, which was the highest level, during his call from God to prophethood, and Ezekiel encountered Gabriel twice in his visions. And here we see Gabriel mentioned twice in the Gospel of Luke. To clinch the reality of Gabriel, it was Gabriel who appeared to Muhammad many times, and through whom God's revelation to Muhammad was revealed. And the Baha'i writings do tell us that the Quran is the true word of God. Say, and this is from the Quran, say, whoever is an enemy to Gabriel, it is none but he who has brought the Quran down upon your heart, O Muhammad, by permission of Allah, confirming that which was before it and its guidance and good, good tidings for the believers. Whoever is an enemy to Allah and his angels and his messengers and Gabriel and Michael, then indeed Allah is an enemy to the disbelievers. And Michael, as well as Gabriel, are considered to be archangels. Got to get some water. It is recorded in the Gospel of Luke that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, the town of David, where she and Joseph had traveled to be registered for a census because Joseph belonged to the house of David. Shepherds were watching over their flocks nearby when an angel appeared to them and said, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born. He is the Messiah, the Lord." And suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." The shepherds went to Bethlehem and found Jesus in a manger, as they had been told. And it is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew how 3 magi came looking for him, who had been born King of the Jews. And they first went to Jerusalem. They had seen Jesus' star when it rose and had come to worship him. Herod was very disturbed and called in the chief priests and teachers of the law, and he asked the Magi where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." And this is from Matthew 2, verse 6, and it's citing the prophet Micah from about 700 years before. So Herod sent the Magi to Bethlehem with the instructions to report back to him so that he too may go and worship him. They found Mary, Joseph, and Jesus and presented their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned home by another route. The prophet Micah was active about 700 years before the birth of Jesus. His words about Bethlehem, called Ephratah, from the book of Micah, were, "But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will rule over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times. He will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord and the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they will live securely, for then his greatness will reach to the ends of the earth." So, for many reasons, I do believe the gospel stories of Jesus, the Nativity. And I had always thought that the gifts of the three Magi were frivolous, expensive. Frankincense, myrrh, gold, and this is a frankincense tree. This is the rosin that comes from the frankincense, and of course, gold. There are many medicinal properties of frankincense and myrrh, which I discovered. The rosin is used in traditional healing for aromatherapy. It has anti-inflammatory practices. It is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and antiseptic, and they relieve neurological pain. And of course, the gold would have been very useful to support this young family for 2 years in Egypt. So in other words, the Magi provided the Holy Family with medicine and money. The Magi walked the spiritual path with practical feet. And now we will look at the plural: angels, stars, and heralds for other prophets of God. This next section is very exciting to me. It took a careful reading of the Kitab-i-Iqan by Baha'u'llah to know and understand what he said about angels, stars, and heralds for all the prophets of God. And I'll present what he said in chronological order. He went through the 5 Abrahamic prophets from Abraham through the Bab and Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah started by referring to Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. That's what Matthew said. Baha'u'llah said, by heaven is meant the visible heaven, inasmuch as when the hour draweth nigh, on which the day star of the heaven of justice shall be made manifest, and the ark of divine guidance shall sail upon the sea of glory, a star will appear in the heaven, heralding unto its people the advent of that most great light. In like manner, in the invisible heaven, a star shall be made manifest, who unto the peoples of the earth shall act as a harbinger of the break of that true and exalted morn. These two signs, in the visible and the invisible heaven, have announced the revelation of each of the prophets of God. Two heavens, the visible and the invisible. Two stars, the visible and the invisible. Then Baha'u'llah starts with Abraham. On the left, you see the map. Abraham was born and grew up in Ur in Mesopotamia. Here's the Persian Gulf. Here's the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. And if you go up and then way over to the left in a semicircle, you'll come to the Holy Land. Baha'u'llah wrote, among the prophets was Abraham, the friend of God. Ere he manifested himself, Nimrod dreamed a dream. Thereupon he summoned the soothsayers, who informed him of the rise of a star in the heaven. Likewise, there appeared a herald who announced throughout the land the coming of Abraham. Here we have a star and a forerunner. After him came Moses, he who held converse with God. The soothsayers of his time warned Pharaoh in these terms: a star hath risen in the heaven, and lo, it foreshadoweth the conception of a child, who holdeth your fate and the fate of your people in his hand. In like manner there appear a sage, who in the darkness of the night wrought tidings of joy unto the people of Israel, imparting consolation to their souls and assurance to their hearts. To this testify the records of the sacred books. And the sage would have been the herald or forerunner. And the people of Israel would have been those who were in slavery in Egypt. Jesus was next, and Baha'u'llah wrote about the Magi. These Magi said, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When they had searched, they found out that in Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, the child had been born. This was the sign that was manifested in the visible heaven. As to the sign in the invisible heaven, the heaven of divine knowledge and understanding, it was Yahya, son of Zechariah, who gave unto the people the tidings of the manifestation of Jesus. Even as he hath revealed, God announced Yahya to thee, who shall bear witness unto the word from God, and the great one and chaste. By the term word is meant Jesus, whose coming Yahya foretold. Moreover, in the heavenly scriptures, it is written, John the Baptist was preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. By John is meant Yahya. And this quotation, God announced Yahya, is from the Quran. Likewise, ere the beauty of Muhammad was unveiled, the signs of the visible heaven were made manifest. As to the signs of the invisible heaven, there appeared 4 men who successively announced unto God, who announced unto the people the joyful tidings of the rise of that divine luminary. Rusbi, later named Salman, was honored by being in their presence. As the end of one of these approached, he would send Rusbi unto the next, until the 4th, who was feeling his death to be nigh, addressed Rusbi, saying, O Rusbi, when thou hast taken up my body and buried it, go to Hijaz, for there the day star of Muhammad will rise. Happy art thou, for thou shalt behold his face. And as best I could find out, Rushdie became known as Salman al-Farisi. He not only met Muhammad, but he became his close companion and was considered a member of Muhammad's household. After Muhammad's passing, he was a steadfast follower of Ali. He was called the man of two books because of his familiarity with Christianity. He had been born, actually, I believe, in Persia to a Christian family. Salman is credited with the first translation of the Quran into Persian. Baha'u'llah continued with the coming of the Bab and Baha'u'llah. And now, concerning this wondrous and most exalted cause, know thou verily that many an astronomer hath announced the appearance of its star in the visible heaven. Likewise, there appeared on earth Hakmar and Kazim. Those twin resplendent lights, may God sanctify their resting place. Sheikh al-Ahmad and Ziyad Kazim, their stories are told in depth in the Dawnbreakers. And then Baha'u'llah continued, from all that we have stated, it hath become clear and manifest that before the revelation of each of the mirrors reflecting the divine essence, the signs heralding their advent must needs be revealed in the visible heaven as well as the invisible, wherein is the seat of the sun of knowledge, of the moon of wisdom, and of the stars of understanding and utterance. The sign of the invisible heaven must needs be revealed in the person of that perfect man who, before each manifestation appeareth, educateth and prepareth the souls of men for the advent of the divine luminary, the light of the unity of God amongst men. Now, what were the signs in the visible heaven for the Bab and Baha'u'llah? Okay, William Sears addressed this. He was a hand of the cause. He wrote a wonderful book called Release the Sun. And first, he mentioned how in 1843, a great comet streaked across the heavens 1 year before the declaration of the Bab. And there were also halo-like rings around the sun that year. And many Christians took this to be the imminent coming, second coming of Jesus. There was a comet named Biala, said William Sears, that appeared every 6.6 years. One of the most unique stories of Biela's comet, and it had been tracked since the 18th century by astronomers, is told of the period during which the Bab and Baha'u'llah were engaging in correspondence in 1845, and the Bab was preparing his followers for the appearance of Baha'u'llah. In 1845, this is what Biala's comet appeared. But there are two of them. The Encyclopedia Americana gives the following account of this event. It was found again late in November 1845, and in the following month, an observation was made of one of the most remarkable phenomena in astronomical records, the division of the comet. It put forth no tail while this alteration was going on. Also, it had become binary. that is 2 under observation in 1846. And here you can see that the tail of the larger comet was greatly decreasing. The comets returned in August 1852. This was the very month and year in which Baha'u'llah was cast into an underground prison in Tehran. It was also the 9th year of which the Bab had foretold that the promised one of all ages and religions would come. Strangely enough, at the time of the reappearance of the twin comets in 1852, one half had receded far into the background. The other half, though in parallel orbit, now dominated the scene. Just so had the Bab, the herald of the Baha'i faith, passed into history, and the one whose coming he had foretold, Baha'u'llah, had reassumed his mission. By 1872, the comets could not be found where they should have been, and that place was occupied by a swarm of millions of meteors, known as the Andromedid meteors. This was a great shower of light, and it symbolized, just as the faith of Baha'i and Baha'u'llah are not separate, but one in the light which they shed upon each other and the world. And that is a mistyping. It should be 1872. And now we will move back in time to get caught up with Christmas. The early Christians replaced the Saturnalia and the Bacchanal with the early Christmas celebrations. This was a very wise decision to replace these raucous and definitely not Christ-like festivals with the celebration of the birth of Jesus. Winter festivals around the time of winter solstice had existed since ancient times, and eventually many of those festivals traditions became linked with Christmas. Now, in early Christian history, the proportion of pagan converts to Christianity far outstripped the Jewish converts to Christianity. So early Christianity found a lot of its converts having come from pagan families and pagan cultures. We do not know when the early Christmas celebrations began. We don't know if that has not been recorded. But the first recorded Christmas celebration in Rome was in 336, when the church in Rome began formally celebrating Christmas on December 25th, under the reign of the Emperor Constantine. And as Constantine had made Christianity the effective religion of the empire, some have speculated that choosing this date had the political motive of weakening the established pagan celebrations, which it certainly did, because they did die out. Over time, Christmas gained popularity and new traditions. In medieval England, Christmas was a 12-day festival involving all kinds of revelry, plays, feasts, pageants celebrating Jesus' birth, music, gift-giving, decorations, especially from greens. By the end of the 16th century, Christmas trees were common in Germany, and that tradition spread. But not everybody relished the celebrations. In 1644, the English Puritans, who were in power in the Parliament, banned Christmas because they thought it was too pagan, and the people rioted in the streets. And The ban lasted through the Cromwell administration, but Charles I quickly reinstated Christmas. American Puritans also banned Christmas in Massachusetts in 1659, but they also had to lift the ban 22 years later. As immigrants flooded into the U.S. in the latter half of the 16th century, they brought their own traditions with them. This created a kind of Christmas melting pot with assimilation of various cultures into a more uniform and widely celebrated holiday. And one of those cultural icons that immigrants brought with them that would become distinctly American was Santa Claus. In 1870, Congress made Christmas the nation's first federal holiday. Many of us who are Baha'is will be celebrating Christmas with Christian friends and Christian relatives. With joy, they can celebrate the coming to the earth of the Spirit of God, Jesus, and with moderation and fellowship, and without the stress of any must-haves or have-tos, without the stress of commercial materialism. And for those who will be celebrating Christmas with their Christian friends and families, we can join the 11% of the American Psychological Society chart that is not experiencing any stress over Christmas. We can just be joyous knowing who Jesus was. And there's one more photo that I must show you. This is in Haifa, Israel. And this is the circle at the end of Ben Gurion Avenue. It's all decorated by Christian Arabs for Christmas. The Arab neighborhood decorated all out. And here, going up Ben Gurion Avenue, and you see the beautiful decorations, and another roundabout here, and the terraces, the Baha'i terraces, and the shrine of the Bab. I just thought this was an absolutely beautiful and maybe symbolic picture. Who knows? At any rate, happy holidays to everybody. And looking forward to a Yamiha. And now we can go on to questions and answers. If I can figure out how to get rid of the who can share. Okay. Jeremiah, stop share. Okay, here we are. And I'm open to any questions you might want to ask.
I just found I have a super secret mute feature on my laptop. I was going to actually ask a question here. So I have a question about your material. Are you going to be making it available for people to access stuff like your PowerPoint?
Oh, absolutely. The Katabi Yigan, paragraph numbers 66 through 73, anybody can access that. The information on the Saturnalian, the Bacchanal, and whatever, you can go to any encyclopedia online or any good article and find all the information that I used. Most of it I didn't bother to document because it's really everywhere online. Just make sure that you're going to a reputable source like the Encyclopedia Britannica, and you'll be safe.
Thank you for sharing that. So there were a few questions during the session. That was one of them, about the material that was shared during the session. If we could share that, like the PowerPoint. I know Jeremiah will work with you on that. If you can provide that, great. Another thing, it is a question about the holidays. So, there's this tradition of winter holidays. Not everyone agrees on the same date for Christmas, and even among Christian denominations, they celebrate Christmas on various days of the year, not just December 25. Is there, just for people who don't know why, is there a reason for that? The difference of the days that Christmas falls on?
There are theological reasons for the Eastern Orthodox celebrating in January. I'm not familiar with what they are, but again, that's something that anybody can go online and find out pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you. So, as it relates to the three wise men and your mention of the Magi, the question is, as the different Gospels mention the early days of Jesus Christ to some extent, the value of the three wise men, these Magi, because they're Magi, does that imply something about Zoroastrianism that we should be aware of?
Yes, a Magi is a Zoroastrian priest. So these were very astute Zoroastrians who came. To some extent, the early Zoroastrian religion is related to what you might call astronomy, as well as astrology, as well as astronomy. And they would have been studying the stars.
So, just a question about the stars, and then another question about the Zoroastrian Magi. So, Terry asks, have they been able to prove what was the Star of Bethlehem? Some
Yes.
theorize that it was a conjunction of planets.
No, it was not a conjunction of planets. As Baha'u'llah explained, the star did appear. It was a special event. And as to where it came from and where it went afterwards, I don't know. But the Star of Bethlehem was real, and maybe it was a special creation from God, because it was his messenger that he was sending to earth. And as the Kitab-i-Iqan explained, as Baha'u'llah explained, Baha'u'llah verified the Star of David, and that there would be a star in the visible heavens, or signs, he called it, in the visible heaven, for every prophet coming to earth, and a sign in the invisible heaven. So yes, the Star of Bethlehem was real, and I personally believe that the nativity stories in Luke and Matthew are accurate, at least in their outline.
So as it relates to the story of these Zoroastrian magi, does that speak to the significance of Zoroastrianism? And what would you say from the Bible that significance would be of Zoroaster and the Zoroastrian faith that a lot of Christians don't know about?
Very little, actually, as far as I can tell. uh, each prophet of God, as we know, fulfills the previous dispensations and reveals more. And Zoroastrianism is not mentioned as such in the Bible. And actually, it is now, today, a dying religion. And it seems they do not proselytize. Now, Judaism does not proselytize, but Judaism and the Jewish people have remained strong as far as numbers go throughout thousands of years. Zoroastrians have not. There are actually rather few of them today, and their population is decreasing. So I would say I don't know of any significance of Zoroastrianism for us, except that the Magi were three very astute priests.
Thank you for that explanation. So in the end, there's an association, but one would not say that per se it was a prophecy of Zoroaster that would have led them to the acknowledgement and, of course, the nativity story, but the role that they played in the story of Jesus Christ, you don't think it came from Zoroastrian prophecy?
Okay, exactly what is the question?
So the question is whether Zoroastrian prophecy had a role to play in the validity of the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Oh, yes. I mean, you see this in all the dispensations. Members of previous dispensations have always tuned in to the coming of the next. This is not unusual at all. They're called heralds, and you might possibly consider the Magi to also be heralds for their own people for the coming of the Christ.
Thank you so much for that. There's a comment from Terry. Terry, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask that question, the piece that you spoke on, or I believe Eileen already addressed it. So you can tell me if it wasn't addressed. But with that being said, there's a one last question that I have for you, and that is, how can we learn more about these concepts? I know you mentioned a few sources. What's the first place we should start?
Okay, specifically which concepts?
Angel, stars, and heralds. This perspective that Baha'is have on the
Oh,
revelation and, in general, revelation itself and God.
oh my. Read the writings. I recommend the Kitab-i-Igan because it is the foundational theological text of the Baha'i faith, and it covers virtually everything. And the good news is, I'm sure most Clearwater Baha'is and listeners are familiar with the Baha'i Foundational Studies program, where Chad Jones spent last year giving multi-day readathons on the Dawnbreakers. And I went to one, and it was absolutely tremendously wonderful and mystical. And it will be done again this year. Watch for the announcement. And he is going to add 2 or 3 days, probably, for a systematic, in-depth study of the Kitab-i-Iqan. And when the announcements start coming out next spring, late winter, next spring, I can't urge people strongly enough to go to the one nearest you. Just get on the plane and go, or drive, or whatever. The Foundational Studies Program is an incredible project, and it deserves not only support, but what it does for the people who attend. It's transformational and mystical. So I guess that's my short answer to a very large question. The Kitab-i-Iqan, and of course the Baha'i readings. And if you're familiar with the Baha'i reference program online, you can look up anything. You could just put in the word angels, and all the Baha'i sources that list the word angels will come up. And that's one way of pursuing what the writings say about a particular topic. And it's led me to a lot of good sources.
Thank you so much. So I see Ralph Shoemaker said Zoroaster mentioned the coming of future saviors in the Gathas. He is mentioned in the Arabic gospel.
Well, that certainly stands to reason. As a prophet of God himself, he would have. Just as Moses did, he foresaw Jesus and Muhammad, and just as Jesus did. That is very much in line with progressive revelation as we understand it.
So I think that we've been able to discuss a lot of important concepts today. We want to thank you so much in this holiday season that we're celebrating here in America, that we're able to reflect on some spiritual connections of these holidays that a lot of Americans, whether they be Christian or not, are celebrating. And of course, as it relates to the Baha'i writings, we have so much to learn. And as was mentioned, the Book of Certitude, the Kitab-i-Iqan, you can find that book on the Baha'i Reference Library on Baha'i.org. You can also on oceanlibrary.com view the book and have it read out loud to you. So on oceanlibrary.com, if you type in the search field for this book by Baha'u'llah, the Kitab-i-Iqan, you can have the book read out loud, and you can also find the specific places that may have been referred to, in addition to the rest of the book itself that you can read in a few hours, actually. This book, which was mentioned, was written over 2 nights, and it is itself a miracle, if you will, given that it states the theological basis that Baha'is have for how religion itself is viewed, as well as revelation. And what does revelation mean? What is this message from God that we've received over millennia? I see a hand raised from Diana, and I think it has to do, while you're unmuting yourself, Diana, she asks, can you please elaborate on the reasons for the Zoroastrian religion to be decreasing?
Okay.
Thank you, John.
For one thing, Zoroastrianism never really spread. It was centered in Persia and it spread to India, but it never spread globally in the way that Judaism ultimately did, that Christianity did, that Islam did. That's one reason. Zoroastrianism never proselytized. And if you don't teach your faith, you're not going to get new converts. But you do suffer from intermarriage and lapsing out of what you've been raised in. And also, Zoroastrianism is very old. I don't know much about its theology, but I suspect it took a fairly wrong turn. Zarathustra, another name for Zoroaster, used the sun as a symbol for divinity. And all religions do degrade over time. And the concept of keeping that fire burning for thousands of years doesn't make a whole lot of sense and might have turned off a lot of Zoroastrians. That's just a thought that crossed my mind, that it's not current in the way that other older religions are to a great extent. Even in Judaism, there is tremendous, well, the Hebrew Bible is Jewish. And Baha'u'llah said, read it, because there is so much divine truth in it that never goes out of date. And the Jewish sages added a lot of wisdom. And that's one reason Judaism has not died, but has come back from the Holocaust and has become stronger as a faith, even though, again, intermarriage weakens it. But did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So there was a question, if you could repeat the sign in the heavens before Muhammad's coming. I know you mentioned the story of Salman, and this was a piece of the session today.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is to share the screen, and we're going to go back to Salman. Okay. Likewise, the beauty of Muhammad was unveiled. The signs of the visible heaven were made manifest. As to the signs of the invisible heaven, there appeared 4 men who successively announced unto the world. And Rusby, who was their companion, who later did go to Hijaz and met Baha'u'llah, became his companion, and so forth. And from what, okay, that's what it says. Stop sharing. Rusby may have been a Christian from Persia, and he ran into one of these 4 forerunners, and he was totally taken with it, and he became Muslim. And he did translate he did do the first Persian translation of the Quran. Now, what is your exact question? What were the signs in the visible heaven for Muhammad? A
Yes,
star?
that was our question.
Ah, that was the question. Well, Baha'u'llah did not answer that question in the Kitab-i-Iqan.
But he speaks of the divine luminaries who preceded the manifestations of God. And he speaks to, of course, Sheikh Ahmed Asai, of course, for the
Yes,
Baha'i
yes,
dispensation, and John the
yes.
Baptist. And likewise, he spoke to Muhammad.
He just says the signs of the visible heaven were made manifest. And he does
And
not say
the
what.
reason for that is that it was obvious to the person he was writing it, as people had to have this knowledge in a country that its religion was Islam. The majority, and especially the reader, was Muslim. So
Mhm.
the restatement of a fact that was obvious would be inappropriate, especially given that the topic was at hand something else.
Yes, thank you. That is very good stepping in to answer that question. Thank you.
But it's not so familiar other religions, which is why it was easier to be accepted as a part of the
Mhm.
the writing that was made. So the person that is reading this Kitab-i-Iqan originally, to whom it was originally furnished, is the uncle of the Bab. The Bab
Yes.
was the herald of Baha'u'llah, and he, of course, was martyred because of the message that he brought. And Baha'u'llah, at this point, who had yet to reveal who he really was, actually wrote this to not just justify the Bab's revelation to the Bab's uncle, but to explain the answers that the Bab's uncle had, to
Mhm.
the answers to the questions that the Bab's uncle had.
Excellent. Also, we have two questions about how to find out what's the name of the Baha'i Foundational Studies Program. I made up that name. It's as descriptive as I could make it. To be on the mailing list, to get notification. John, you can help me out here. If you're on the Clearwater Baha'is email list, then I'm assuming that you will get notifications about foundational studies programs. I recommend getting on the mailing list of the Desert Rose Baha'i Institute. They send out, or they did last year anyway, a comprehensive announcement. And they post it on their website, very comprehensive, about where the programs will be held all over the country. So probably Desert Rose Baha'i Institute is your best bet. Do you have other suggestions, John?
So we've been using the website firm-foundation.org. It's hard to find it because you have to put the hyphen in. So some people, they write Firm Foundation and then they'd find another website. But it's firm-foundation.org. You can go to that website. They have a program as to the events that Peter Terry was hosting this year. However, we're in the process of planning the sessions that Peter will be hosting for next year. So it'll be some time, but definitely sharing with the Clearwater Baha'is page. We can also share that with the initiative that we're cooperating with, that Peter Terry is bringing speakers together for. So we're in process. So definitely, if you're able to go to our contact us page on clearwaterbaha'is.org, we have a program that allows you to receive a text message when we're going to be starting something. So your phone, especially a smartphone, can access our sessions. And we are also requesting your email so that we can, of course, send you an email. But that, if you provide your contact information on clearwaterbaha'is.org, is the simplest way to make sure you're on the list. And we're using a service to help us to, of course, reach out to you. So you'll be receiving a text message, preferably that you're within the United States, of course. And the contact us page, you just go to clearwaterbaha'is.org, contact us, and you should be able to fill it in pretty simply. So that being said, if your phone number is from outside the United States, we probably won't message you. But if you give your email address and you make sure that you get some kind of communication from us, you'll probably be receiving more of those. We want to.
So John, excuse me, John, pardon me. So if you have our emails and we get messages from you about these sessions, will we also get the message about the coming programs? Or do you need our telephone numbers too?
So it's a requirement for the contact us page to provide the phone number to receive a text message, and the email address, which is not a requirement, would be how you receive the emails if that's what you're seeking. So yes, we need both. If you want to get an email, you still have to give your phone number. That's so we can contact you if there's a problem.
So who do we give it to? Because you have our emails.
So clearwaterbaha'is.org. clearwaterbaha'is.org. There's the top of the page where you can select contact us. And the contact us tab allows you to sign up for general events, which we would then be able to connect you with. Does that help?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. And I see some people sent it here in the chat. I'll try to write it down, but the foolproof way, the foolproof, F-O-O-L, foolproof way of making sure the information is recorded is submitting it again on clearwaterbaha'is.org, because I can likewise say I'll record it, but then it doesn't end up there. So please insert information on the contact us page in clearwaterbaha'is.org. You'll help a lot. With that being said, we want to thank everyone who came out today. It's really appreciated. We appreciate that all of you have made the time to be here with us and to discuss these pretty important subjects. The next thing, we're going to be having a session again next week. We understand it's the holidays, and what better time when we are trying to remember God than to actually do it, which is have these sessions. So with that being said, if you want to watch more of Eileen Maddock's sessions, we have plenty of them now on the YouTube channel. We plan on having Eileen visit again to present again. And likewise, the previous sessions that we have, you can view them on Clearwater Baha'is, the YouTube channel. Of course, you can access to the website we've been talking about, clearwaterbaha'is.org. But you can also go to the Baha'i Center of Clearwater Facebook page. The Facebook page is one of the means that we're trying to reach out, where we post up events of who's speaking. So you'll probably find over 100 events that we've posted and hosted. These events are up online so that people can easily find the videos that were streamed, also easily find what we've been speaking about, so they can search for those subjects online. With that being said, we also have daily readings. We have some quick reels that have some meditational music and the quote. We have some links to resources. The Facebook page really is a place to visit if you haven't already. It's the Baha'i Center of Clearwater. And you can, again, like I said, sign up for the events. It saves the Zoom link and all that in your calendar. You just need to say you're going and allow Facebook to save to your calendar, which may be Outlook, Google, Apple, what have you. Now, not to belabor our ending, if you liked our video today, please like and subscribe. Like this video, and of course, subscribe to the channel, be it on Facebook or YouTube. For all of you on Zoom, we are happy to have you next week as we go forward, and I think you'll enjoy next week's speaker as well. So again, thank you so much, Eileen. We hope that you'll be with us sooner than later. All of you who are with us, Eileen has been a I was going to use the word repeat offender. I'm joking. So the recidivism is high with Clearwater Baha'is. People who come and speak with us, they like to come back. And we hope to have you again, Eileen. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you very much, and goodbye, everybody.